Don't you dare be sour! Clap for your world-famous Virtual Stadium Tours guide and feel the power! It's a new day, yes it is! It is time for another virtual stadium tour, and today we are taking a look around the TD Garden. Yes, this is the home stadium of the Boston Bruins, the NHL ice hockey side, and the Boston Celtics, the NBA basketball team. And as always for you, the first fact I have on this stadium is its overall capacity. And of course, because this stadium does host several different sports, it has a few different, very slightly different overall capacities. For instance, for basketball, when the Celtics play, the overall capacity is just over 18,600. Whereas when the Bruins play here, the hockey side, the overall capacity is just over 17,500. So it's slightly different. Also, when there are concerts here, when there are bands playing in this stadium, the overall capacity is around 19,500. So it does change up a little bit depending on what's actually going on in the stadium. The next fact I have for you on this stadium is its construction, details to do with that. I can tell you that it cost around $160 million to build, and the construction actually started in 1993. So it was $160 million back then, which today equates to around $250 million. That's in today's currency in 2016. And the stadium took just a little over 2 years to build, so it was opened in September 1995. The next few facts I have for you are around the naming rights for this stadium. Now, the stadium that this one replaced in Boston was called the Boston Garden, and they considered calling it exactly the same thing, the Boston Garden, but that was rather quickly talked down by the owners of both the Bruins and the Celtics, the sports teams that would occupy the stadium. And the very common new name came up, sort of a temporary name, was called the New Garden to begin with. But it was very quickly once again changed to the Fleet Centre. And that was because a local bank in the area, called the Fleet Bank, purchased the naming rights rather quickly. But that was thrown up in the air not long after that even, because the Fleet Bank merged with another bank in 2004. So once again, people thought that the naming rights for the stadium would change once again. And this actually happened to come true. As the bank that had merged, the Fleet Bank, they actually paid the Celtics and the Bruins to cancel their naming rights deal early, which meant that then in 2005, the Bruins and the Celtics, the owners of the stadium, were able to go out and find a new sponsor for the name. And they actually found another bank, funnily enough, called the TD Bank North. And those people bought the naming rights to the stadium ever since it's been known as the TD Garden. And they actually pay around $6 million per year for the naming rights of that stadium. But that deal actually finished before they managed to find that new sponsor, they actually, to raise money for charity, they put the naming rights up on eBay, and they agreed to sell the naming rights one day at a time throughout a month. In 2005, from February 10th to March 13th, so just over a month, they sold the naming rights one day at a time to different people, different companies, and they raised over $150,000 for charity by doing that, with some individuals paying up to as much as $8,600, so $8,600, just to get their name sponsored as the stadium for a single day. Now I'm just going to talk to you about the redevelopment of the stadium quickly. The first redevelopment of two this stadium has had was in 2006, when for the next 3 years they did little bits to update the stadium, with the only major change being that room was made within the stadium for a large HD screen to be put in. But then it was also redeveloped in 2013, and in that redevelopment a lot of work was done to the outside of the building to make it look slightly nicer, and also to make it look a hell of a lot bigger and to expand it out a little bit. And that was really culminating in a huge 3-tower structure built around the outside of the stadium. Now I'm just going to move on to some of the uses for the stadium. I mean, obviously the ice hockey, the basketball also take place in this stadium. But as well as that, the stadium hosts lacrosse games. It's also hosted Disney on Ice before now. Several comedians have had comedy tours run through the stadium, such as Tim Allen, Chris Rock, Louis C.K. The WWE spends a lot of time in this stadium, including WrestleMania 14 took place in this very stadium. Several other pay-per-views as well. Raw and SmackDown both regularly run through this stadium. Singers have also run through the stadium as well. Performers like Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, Cher, people like that have all run through the stadium, had sellout concerts take place there. And just the last few quick facts for you now about the stadium. Firstly is the statue. There's a statue was made in 2010 placed outside the stadium of Bobby Orr, who's one of the famous ice hockey players, used to play for the Boston Bruins. He was famous for making a diving save. He wasn't a goalkeeper, but he made a diving save to stop his team conceding a goal in a very important match. And also there's a museum on the site there, known as the Sports Museum of New England. So while you're visiting the stadium, if you've got a bit of time before whatever you're visiting the stadium for, or after, you can go to the Sports Museum and take a little bit of time to wander around and learn the history of sports in the New England. Anyway. Thank you for watching this Virtual Stadium Tours video. If you enjoyed it and would like to see every new video this channel uploads as soon as it uploads them to the interwebs, why don't you press the subscribe button down below this video